little, I guess, bit of a change of pace for this video. I think we can have some fun with this. And I like to do more videos like this, more kind of kick back, talking about not just the Rippaverse, but writing with the idea in mind that this is going to be this ever expanding universe and how my approach is, because I know there's a lot of people that have aspirations, and of course the Rippaverse customers are right here at the ground level. But I want to shout out to Hail the Lord for bringing this post to my attention. By the way, this statement here from George R. R. Martin is not a new one, or this in terms of what happened, right? So as it states right here from a Thrones Facts, George R. R. Martin admitted to Outlander writer Diana Gabaldon that he wrote himself into a corner with the winds of winter. Have you ever killed someone off that you later realized you needed? And I would just rather talk about that concept, that overall concept. A lot of you, if you read Game of Thrones, yeah, I get it. Been some gaps. Is he going to finish this? Whatever. Even with regards to the statement, what exactly is he talking about? All of that's part of it, and why I think this could be a fun kind of discussion. When you are writing, is not this like all-encompassing thing. There's certain audiences in mind. There's certain intentions that the writers, publishers are trying to, that they have, let's say, with whatever brand, book, series, whatever it is. And that approach has to be considered definitely once you're judging it, but it needs to at least be considered. I think we live in this era of, and it's an odd one, it's the instant gratification. I think you see this really across so many different forms of subculture, especially in America. You know, you have like TikTok and stuff. It's like, give it to me straight. I want to move on to the next thing. And these attention spans are short, and the media is being reflective sort of that, and trying to do things with that type of person in mind. Video games get dumbed down. They're not as long. You can't clock as many hours in them. And I think it all has to do with that. And look, if people that are identifying markets want to market their material or make material for that type of person in mind, I'm not saying there's a fundamental problem. What I'm saying is that other people should not be held to that standard if that isn't their intentions. That isn't their intention at all. But yes, you can write yourself into a corner. This isn't anything unique to George R. R. Martin, but even the technology alone has changed so much in the book literary writing space, because now we have direct line of sight with our audience. And what used to, everybody would hit a ceiling, right? This is why you had to go get a publisher, because everybody would hit a ceiling. This happened, music, everything. You only could get so far by yourself, and then you had to basically latch onto somebody else's wagon in order to have it be viewed by more people and you to reach more success. Well, those days are over. And now people like little old me can put out something and it be profitable. It has thousands, tens of thousands of watchers, or rather readers in our case. This is something that has absolutely changed the game. So I know there are people, and often this is done because a lot of artists aren't businessmen. It is a skill set that a lot of people don't possess, and there's nothing. I'm not, again, not inherently not saying there's something wrong with that, but I think especially if your intention is to write multiple books, have a series, have the world build, and this is something that you want to see through for 5, 10, 15, 20 years at a time, or out, if you will, then the business side as well as the creative side are not separate. They are intertwined. And this is something that I understood with the Rippaverse right from the get-go. And as a writer, you're not gonna always, the audience isn't always gonna know kind of where you're going in it. Sometimes, definitely like with comic books, that's kind of part of the fun. You know where you're gonna go with it, but they might not. And you don't want to get in the habit of the instant gratification if you have long-term objectives with the world that it is that you're building, because what ends up happening is that you're trying to, it's almost like shock jock. And George R. R. Martin's good at, notable for that, killing people off, relying on death, all of that. And then it's like you kill so many folk off. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. Now I'm stuck at this kind of a spot which may contradict previous events, and I don't know what to do, or I have to pivot on. Like, that can be a problem that you can run into, which is why you have to write with it in mind. If those are your aspirations, write with it in mind that you're going to be doing this, and you got to look through the lens, not of the now, not even of that year, not even of those months. You have to look at it through the lens of 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15, 20. And it is almost impossible for every single individual to get that, even your readers. Now, I think with the Riververse, we haven't had that problem. Yeah, I get it. For whatever reason, 11 months after the fact, all of a sudden you have people that aren't necessarily fond of me still talking about it again, almost like it just came out, and people that seem to not have an issue with the plot, or that was never part of the conversation. Now, all of a sudden, there's all these supposed issues. So that's not what it is that I'm talking about. We don't have that problem with the Riververse, because I think our audience understands with our code of ethics. This is why I wanted to be so transparent, that these are our aspirations. We talk about canon continuity, we talk about the timeline, and it being comprehensive. This is why I look at it through that lens of, I want this to be great for a long time. That's not to say that I'm gonna make $3.7 million every campaign. It's not to say that we need to be successful and to keep putting out books. We need to make that. Absolutely not. I can make a tenth of that. I'd be fine. That'd be a wildly successful venture. But in order to not run into those mistakes with these characters, there's a lot of foundational work that you have to do in the writing aspect, and it's tied right into the business, because your business is going to be you're going to have some issues. Definitely if you're like me, well, basic where you're smaller and this is your content, right? So the beat of the universe is going to go. The buck stops with you. So if we start doing something, for example, that the audience, our actual audience, our readers, that a person, the product don't like or not fond of, then we have problems. So you have to take it step by step. And that's not to say don't have a plan, but writing for the now is something that can be a critical area. You want something intriguing. You want something that gets people interested into the next books, but you can write yourself in a corner by trying to be a shock jock. And if your aspirations are world building and it expanding, then you have to take that into consideration right from the jump. And this is something that a lot of people didn't have access to, even consider prior to, right? So this is why maybe things go on a little longer than what they initially anticipated, and they have to kind of force a fifth book because, well, it got bigger than what they ever would have thought, because they were never considering that been an option. Like with what we're doing, we are. So I have to build up. We have a big universe Bible. I have events, obviously, that I've talked about with each individual character that we've introduced, that obviously all you guys don't know about. But there's a direction that we want to take it, and there's a foundation that we have to lay. And even when I'm working with other writers, it's not like a free for all. Chuck, Saska's, we sit down and we talk about what needs to happen, because if there's conflicts between our books, then that's how you really end up writing yourself into a corner, when you have characters that have shown up in one book and may show up in another. So you have to be this idea that those things are separate, like creative stuff and business, because that is your business, right? It's about the universe. You're trying to sell people on an actual universe. Then the creative stuff is right intertwined with it. So when Heather Lord tagged me in this, and this is one of the more prolific writers of our recent generations, writing themselves into a corner, this is a mistake that you don't have to make, right? And as a new creative, and like I said, he's coming from a completely different era, and stakes were a little different in how you had to become notable. But now, with our technology, with social media, with all the connectivity, things have changed. So you have to, even if people, and not everybody's going to see your vision, period. It's just the way that it is. But if you don't want to run into those mistakes, take it into consideration immediately. Don't just write for the now, write for the 5, 10, 15 year, 20-year plan. And that's going to, I'm not going to say it's going to ensure your success, but it's going to, at minimum, ensure that you don't jack it up and then you hit a wall because you're in the corner and now you're like, oh, I don't know where to take this.
If you enjoyed this video and want to support other content, please become a member at ericdjuly.com. This is my own unique platform that replaced my Patreon. Our Ultramax, which is our highest tier, gets free shipping domestically even with Rippaverse orders and are able to redeem the Creators Edition copy of ISOM #1. You can move up and down tiers or cancel at any time. Also visit Rippaverse.com. This is my comic book company that launched a $3.7 million campaign. We appreciate your support.